Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Tuesday Night Legacy, presented by Spellhold Games. My name's Eugene, but I'm not going to be your commentator tonight, as this is a bonus episode, and as always, we have Bryson with the Pauper content. So let's take it right over to him.
Hello and welcome to another round of Pauper Magic brought to you by Spellhold Games. I'm Bryson and I'll be your host this evening. We've got Jack here on the left piloting Cyclestorm and AJ on the right playing Acid Trip. Now this Cyclestorm deck is attempting to leverage cards with cycling to churn through the deck, generating large amounts of mana with Songs of the Dam, and then using this mana to cycle through the deck and then rebuy all these creatures with Reaping the Graves to continue to churn through the deck and finally finish your opponent off by cycling cards with Draenei Stingers in play. Where AJ is trying to slow the game down, he's trying to get a Reality Acid on his opponent's Troubled Permanence and not wait 3 turns for this to go off, but use a coarse Skyfisher effect to bounce the Reality Acid, forcing the sacrifice and resetting the Reality Acid loop. And it looks like AJ got the die roll, and we'll get this game going. AJ here going to start us off with his Island into Preordain. Passing the turn. Jack most likely. He's got starting off with the Street Wraith into another Street Wraith. Basically, one of the most powerful starts from Jack is just getting as many cyclers in the yard as fast as possible, because these cyclers really power up the Songs of the Damned and push this deck over the edge, giving it the really high power level. With that Street Wraith being able to basically make your deck start out with 4 cards less, as well as fueling the yard for those Songs of the Damned turns. Jack here just waiting for an opportunity to have all the right cards in hand. Cycling away, looking for a land drop now. Looks like he got there with a Baronmoor. Passing the turn. AJ now trying to decide. Commits a Augur the Bolas to start chipping away at Jack's life total. Getting a Preordain off that. With the Augur, oftentimes known for looking at the bottom 3 cards of your library. But fortunately, AJ was able to get a hit off of it. Just a 2 mana, 1/3 beater. With Jack having all those Street Wraiths in the deck. That extra damage adds up because you can only cycle Street Wraith so many times. And with Reaping of the Graves, rebuying it, it's definitely very critical to get Jack's life total as low as possible. Augur coming in here would have put Jack at 15. AJ not realizing that Jack cycled 2 Street Wraiths. Fortunately, this is factored in the end. It doesn't affect the final outcome of the game. Jack there putting the Lotus Petal into play so he doesn't have to discard to hand size. AJ binning an Ancestral Accumulated Knowledge off of that Consider. Very strong as Accumulated Knowledge draws for each Accumulated Knowledge in graveyards. And now we see that Reality Acid hit play, targeting Jack's Black Source. Considering Jack's deck is 98% black, it's pretty wise to hit either the black or blue sources, because the blue sources are just there to find more of the black spells anyways, so most likely it's the black source that you want to go for. Jack now deploying these 2 Lotus Petals, signifying that it's storm time, because although Jack makes a lot of game actions, cycling does not increase your storm count, where Reaping the Graves really needs to see storm. So these Lotus Petals being free form of storm is very good to power up and juice the Reaping the Graves to hit more creatures in his yard. There goes that Dark Ritual off that swamp. AJ sitting on a memory lapse trying to decide when the right time to strike is. Looking for a juicier spell. Maybe a Songs of the Damned or something. It looks like he decides to settle on this Cabal Ritual here. Trying to slow Jack down. Unfortunately, Cyclers allowing you to redraw the top card makes Memory Lapse a little weaker, whereas other decks Memory Lapse would be more of a Time Walk effect. But for Jack, it's simply just a speed bump along the way. With Jack's 2 other Cabal Rituals in hand. And last card in hand being the best card, Reaping the Graves, which takes advantage of the Memory Lapse, increasing the storm count, allowing Jack to practically rebuy his whole graveyard. AJ now, with no other interaction, deploys the F6 and walks away and lets Jack combo off. So here we've got Jack sped up to 4 times speed as he takes over the battlefield here and goes through his combo turn. Jack here just needing to cycle through his whole deck and churn to the level where he's got at least one or more Draenei Stingers in play and enough mana to cycle through the rest of his hand and deal enough damage to his opponent. With the chance of fizzling out here is Jack. He has a decent amount of mana, but as you can see, he's churning through it at a high rate. It looks like I've only seen one Draenei Stinger, so there goes the second Draenei Stinger. He really needs about like 2 Draenei Stingers to be able to comfortably combo off. It can be done with 1, but it's a lot easier with 4. And it's looking like he's definitely short on mana at this point. So, yeah, it looks like Jack now realizing that he kind of burned through a lot of his rituals. Although there aren't many cards left in his library, he's struggling right here. And he may be fizzling out. And yeah, it looks like Jack fizzled out to the deck and lost that round. Jack now on the play for game number 2. Just a simple Baron Moore and pass from Jack. Cycling on main phase 1, looking for that second land drop, but none there, which is acceptable considering Jack's deck only runs about 10 or 12 lands. So very likely to just be running on a 1-lander. With all these cycling, it kind of allows for this redundancy. AJ retapping to leave up white mana for that Augur, hitting that accumulated knowledge, allowing for that card advantage down the road. Each one leading into the next one. There's that accumulated knowledge. Really just needs a reality acid to go with that core Skyfisher, but he'll take the chip damage off the Augur, getting Jack down to 19 there. Let's see if Jack's able to find his third land. He's got at least 2 cycles this turn. And there we go, Baron Moore, saving that 1 mana for another cycle. Ghostly Flicker now, just with a little value, gaining AJ some life and finding an Ephemerate. Ephemerate, a very strong card in Pauper, probably close to the ban list, considering it's so prevalent amongst the meta as well as really blanking a lot of other strategies. So strong to even be seen in CDH across some deck lists for protection of their main commander card. AJ now putting that Reality Acid wisely on a black source, trying to restrict Jack's total mana. Jack ripping that swamp off the top and just passing the turn. AJ now deploying the Skyfisher, bouncing that Reality Acid, sending that Baron Moore to Jack's graveyard. AJ is discarding the Skyfisher to hand size, wanting to leave up 3 mana as interaction with, I'm assuming, a Memory Lapse or Dispel in his hand. Chipping away now as the Skyfisher just tripled the clock with the additional 2 power. Jack now down to 14. Reality Acid getting bounced with that Ephemerate off the Skyfisher. And now Ephemerate comes back, hits that Augur Bolas. Unfortunately, looking at the bottom 3 cards of AJ's library. AJ now able to buy back the Ephemerate with Archaeomancer, which is a very, very strong loop. Being able to pick back the Ephemerate with the Archaeomancer on the next turn. Dispel being in this main board, very strong as most of these Pauper threats are instant speed like I mentioned. But Jack wouldn't have just one Songs to the Dam, has to follow it up with the second one, really riding AJ's fate. Another F6 coming out here as Jack now is at 4x speed, comboing. It looks like this time he's got a lot more mana, considering he had double Songs of the Dam to start things off with about 8 or 9 creatures in his yard. So he's sitting pretty here with all this mana. And now he casts this Mystical Teachings to get the other thing he's missing. If he's not missing mana, but he's missing cards. And Reaping the Graves lets you buy back all those cards. Jack now rebuying all the creatures in his graveyard. Going through the cycling Song and Dance. Churning through mana as he churns through cards. We can see that Pyroblast that Jack brought in from the sideboard, being strong against all AJ's 1 and 2 mana disruption, as well as potentially interrupting one of his Ephemerate loops in an attempt to buy Jack a few turns. Right now, Jack just counting up his mana, seeing how many card draws he has. Being at only 12, it's limited himself to only 6 Street Wraiths. But haven't seemed to see many more of those right now. Jack now deploying the Drain a Stinger. So now the damage begins, as each one of these cycles not only gets him 1 card deeper into his deck, but it's dealing 1 damage to AJ along the way. And Jack's got more than enough cards in his library, so it just comes down to whether or not he hits enough mana to be able to Draineth AJ out of the game. And there goes the second Draineth, which really speeds up the clock. Getting hit for 2 off of each one of these cycles really means that Jack only needs... Oh, that's Street Wraith. Very juiced right now. Being a free cycle, dealing that damage while getting him closer. Now it's pretty trivial here for Jack to be able to go off with that Reaping the Graves in his hand. And there goes the third Stinger. Cracks a Lotus Petal to cycle. And grab the last swamp left in the deck. Cast that Reaping the Graves to rebuy it all, and it looks like Jack's going to easily get there. Now, unfortunately, after this game was pretty late at the store, and we didn't get a chance to get another video in. But we've got a few other games that we were able to record that night, and those will be coming up shortly for you guys. Thanks again for coming, and we really appreciate all the support.
So like Bryson was saying, we do have more Pauper content coming in the future, and we really appreciate everything Bryson does for the channel. If you like these videos, please let him know in the comments what a good job he's doing and how many more Pauper videos you want to see in the future. But until next time, we'll see you at Tuesday Night Legacy.